Welcome back to another edition of the Saints Insider Podcast. My name is Luke Johnson. I'm going to be hosting today, and I'm joined by our columnist, Rod Walker, to my right, Jeff Duncan to my left, if you're watching on the YouTube stream. Gentlemen, how we doing? Are you hanging in there for this July in New Orleans weather?
I'm recovering from Essence.
Yeah.
Some late nights and early mornings.
Look, yeah, but Rod Walker is a night owl. We all know this. I don't know if you all know this at home, but Rod's okay staying up till 3:30 in the morning watching Lauryn Hill, right?
I am.
All right.
I went there prepared to stay late, and that's what I ended up doing. So.
And Jeff, I think this is our first time having you on the pod since you came back from your vacation. So how did that go, man?
Oh, it was epic. Sicily. I was in Sicily for 11 days and left a mark on Sicily. I'm not sure I'll be invited back. And then just got back from Florida, sunny Florida. Played a little golf. Spent a little time on the beach. So, yeah, I'm rested and ready. Although I did get worn down, so I'm fighting something. It's like third time in 6 months. I guess this is what happens when you get old. Start getting sick a lot.
I would know nothing about that.
You'll love this, though. Let me tell you a quick story. First night in Sicily, going down to the hot tub. We had this epic house, hot tub. All my friends are down in the hot tub. We drank through all the alcohol that we had. And they said, I think there's still some more in the fridge.
That's a shocker, yeah.
So they sent me back up to the fridge. I go up to the fridge. The only thing I can see is this brown bottle on the door. Looks like some local beer. So I grab it, go sprinting back down. It's the first day I've been there. I'd stayed up, when you fly over, you stay up all night. So I was like kind of exhausted already. Misjudged the 2 stairs going down to the hot tub. Thought there was just one. Face planted with the bottle, smashed my bottle of wine first night there. And just yesterday I dug out a shard of glass that was still in my wrist that had gotten infected because I didn't realize that there was still glass in my wrist from that. So left my mark.
And that is a classic Jeff Duncan story. I love to hear it. Glad to hear you're not suffering from sepsis or whatever.
Yeah,
so
it was getting infected.
We're going to need you out there this year.
A little self-surgery, by the way. Way to go.
Yeah. You just
safety pin, sterilize it.
Just Jason Bourne it. It's great.
Yeah.
You got to tell us your vacation plan on what you did, man.
So I did not rest. I went to Wisconsin and worked on an old farmhouse for a week. And it was
How'd that go?
The biggest BS ever. Because, I'm from Wisconsin. I love going back home in the summer because, you get a little relief from the New Orleans weather. And I get up there and it's like the worst heat wave they've had in years. It was like 95 degrees the entire time I'm up in Wisconsin. That's BS, man.
That is.
Yeah.
That's not what you went there for.
Come on. I'm like usually
working.
packing like a hoodie up there as it gets down to like the high 50s, low 60s at night. No, just like brutally hot, and I'm working in a farmhouse with no AC. So
brutal.
It was fun, but I'm rested and recovered and ready to talk about Saints. Today's show, we're going to kind of go through the offense and try to set what we believe are some realistic expectations throughout the kind of position groups of the offense. A little bit of this is based on our position preview series that we have unrolling at NOLA.com right now. I think we've got quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and maybe a defensive position or two out right now. So go check that out. Me and Matt Paris have been hard at work getting those put out there for you in preparation for the regular season, which training camp's only a couple of weeks away.
I know, it's hard to believe.
So look through that. We'll kind of roll through our kind of predictions, expectations for the units today on this show on the offensive side of the ball. But first, we are recording this the morning of Wednesday, July 9th. About 2 hours ago, the Saints came out with the big news of the summer, something that is near and dear to my heart as an expert on sartorial influence. The Saints announced a new alternate helmet today. So we're going to go through what we think of that, all right? Look, we got this one right here sitting in front of us. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, you can see this is the traditional gold dome with the black and white center stripe and the fleur-de-lis in the middle. The Saints announced today they're going to wear an all-white alternate helmet. They're going to wear it with their Color Rush uniforms. Same general concept of the regular helmet, except they'll have a gold face mask and a gold center stripe with a kind of a subtle fleur-de-lis design kind of inlaid in the gold center stripe. So, fellas, what are your thoughts on that? We'll hit you up first, Rod.
I like it, man. I think with the old Color Rush, with the Color Rush uniforms, I didn't think this helmet really went with it well. It just didn't. The goals were kind of off to me. So I think this is going to actually match, and so I'm looking forward to seeing them. The rules now that you can wear those Color Rush uniforms 4 times a year this year. It used to be 3 times, but they changed to 4 times this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Saints, break those things out, man.
I think the Color Rush uniforms are sick, man.
Yeah,
Their base set is really good, but like their Color Rush uniforms are my favorite ones they have.
yeah, I think it's one of the best. The Color Rush uniforms to me is one of the best in the league.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I know your thoughts on the uniforms in general. So
well, yeah, I'm not like a huge uniform guy. I'm not that geeky on that stuff. But I would say, the Saints I think have some of the best uniforms just in general in the league. Those traditional uniforms, they're kind of traditionalists. They don't change up much. This is like only the third different uniform I've seen them have since I've covered the team. Those black helmets they went to that I think Loomis and Peyton designed, which were not that popular.
I'll get into that in my take on the helmets.
Yeah, I didn't think those were very popular. I like the black helmet. I just didn't think the thing down the middle was very good. These are much cleaner, and I agree with Luke. I mean, their white color brush uniforms are, I think, their best overall uniforms. Clean, very good looking. Although, remember Zach Streif saying they weren't very flattering for big guys. He said it was not good for the big guys. But so yeah, those are sweet. I mean, and I thought they stayed true to kind of their. They didn't go crazy. It was. I think that was the best part about it. They kind of stayed true to tradition while giving a new look.
So I'm all for it. I love the new white helmets. I'm not generally a white helmet guy, but these I think look really good. And I hated the black ones. Like, they didn't go with anything they had. They didn't look like their normal uniform. I really hated the big, wide, tapered stripe that they had that was made out of mini fleur-de-lis. It just looked awful. And look, I'm correct on this. I have an impeccable sense of style.
That you aren't. That's debatable.
So look, maybe you like them. That's cool. That's your prerogative. But you're wrong. The white ones are way better, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they actually look like with the complete uniform set. And just to clarify something, these are alternate helmets. They're not their full-time helmets. They're only going to wear them with the Color Rush uniforms. I think they would look weird with their regular set. Yeah. But I think it's a good look. And who knows? Maybe they're going to need to look good on the field if they're not going to be playing good this year.
And those black ones, to your point, looked like something Loomis and Peyton would design, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, look,
let somebody else do it.
I don't know the veracity. Like, I don't know how much influence they had in that, or if it was just a final say, or if they're like, yeah, I like this versus that. And like, okay, we'll go with what Mickey and Sean say. But like, those definitely did not look like something that was designed professionally.
If you were going to allow one player to design, who would you pick?
Oh, Alvin Kamara.
Alvin, I think Alvin, right? He's got the best sense of fashion, in my opinion.
That's a really good question. Who do I think is really fashionable? I think Juwan would be probably up there for me too. Juwan Johnson.
Yeah.
He's a stylish guy.
Right.
Cam is stylish, but like I think Cam would do something really weird.
Yeah, he'd probably have his own face on the side or something.
With a green stripe down the middle, a blonde. It'd be
he'd have like all of his different looks. Or something, but
fleur-de-lis with like a beard on it or something like that.
Let somebody that has some sense, fashion sense, design it. Not, I'll leave it at that. For all the criticism we have of Mickey, that one's the most valid, at least today.
But growing up, like, this is my little white helmet story. Like, my junior high football team we wore white helmets. I wasn't very good, by the way, but I was like 5'6"
don't let Rod sell you short.
And 90 pounds, I guess, in 8th grade. But anyway, so you wore white helmets. It was like a big thing because you played the other team, and all the guys who were stars that come in and have all these different colors from the other team's helmets on their helmet, and my helmet was always pretty clean.
Pretty pristine. Rod wasn't getting his face dirty.
So that's my white helmet story. But I'm sure these helmets won't do that at all. They probably won't even get a blemish on them. But.
You saw the teams having like a raffle or something, or an auction online where you can win one. That'd be kind of cool thing. Can you take care of that, by the way? Get us entered in there.
Yeah, come on, Norm.
So we can have a white helmet center stage.
I'll see what I can do.
All right.
And
by the way, Norm did have the great comment, said these new helmets look Creole. Was that?
Yeah. What was the comment, Norm?
It looked Creole. It looked rich.
They look rich. They look Creole. Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, let us know in the comments if Norm is on or off base on that on that comment. All right, let's get into actual football talk, guys. Training camp should open up, about 2 weeks from now? It's July 9th. July 23rd is generally around when they open up. So let's get into some realistic expectations for some of these position groups. And we'll start with the most obvious one. We'll just kind of go down the line, starting with skill position players getting to the line. But quarterbacks, I mean, you can make a pretty definitive case that this is going to be what this season is centered around. And really, what the next couple seasons are going to be centered around. So as we're looking at it today, Kellen Moore said nothing about Jay Kanter not being a part of the competition, but we're all assuming that it's really a two-man race between Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler, and it feels pretty even at this point. So if we were going to set some realistic expectations for what the quarterback play might look like out of New Orleans this year, independent of the other factors on the roster as best you can, what does that look like to you? And we'll start with you, Rod.
Yeah, for me, well, first of all, I think this is the most important quarterback race we've seen in a while, because I think this year is going to tell us if the Saints have their quarterback. If they don't, if Shuck doesn't work out, then they go into next year like, okay, now we got to find a quarterback again.
I'm going to cut you off on that a little bit, because I've been thinking about this a lot. What does that mean? What does either Shuck or Rattler have to do to show that they're the guy they need to build around? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like they look like a future superstar, right?
Right,
they
right.
just need to show that they have it.
Yeah, they can't just go out there and just like the season that we saw from Rattler last year. Like, I don't think we can see that from either one of these quarterbacks. I mean, I think they have to be. But Rattler showed some signs last year. I mean, there were some times when he looked decent. I mean, he was playing with a makeshift team. So I think if the quarterbacks come in and just be kind of consistent and not just turn the ball over, I think you're okay with that. Like, I don't think Shuck has to. They don't even have to. What's the over under 5.5? They can win 5 games and Shuck can look decent or Rattler can look decent. I think they'll be fine and say, okay, we're heading in the right direction. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and it's kind of, to me, I think about like the Patriots with Drake May last year, right? Yeah. Obviously, Drake May is a different type of player. He's a number 3 overall pick in last year's draft. But I think they won 3 games with him as a starting quarterback. And he started maybe 10 games, 13 games, something like that.
Right.
And they didn't win a lot of games. But like, he showed signs of being a potential star quarterback,
right. Yeah.
even though the team wasn't winning. And I think that's.
Yes,
I think
if they show signs, I think that's plenty.
Yeah, and it can't, like, to your point, it can't be like Rattler last year, because look, he showed some glimpses of some really really good potential, and I think that's why he's in the race this year.
But the bad plays were really bad.
Right, and that's why after that showing last year, even though the circumstances around him were kind of bad, they did go out and draft Tyler Shuck in the second round. They were planning on starting Derek Carr when he was still part of the team's 2025 plans. So, like, I'm with you on that. I think it can't be, like, it has to be above the baseline that Spencer Rattler set last year. What do you think, Jeff?
I'm trying to think of a precedent like this. I don't know. I can't think of one where you have say it is Shuck if he ends up winning the job, which I think he will eventually. I don't know if he wins it right out of the gate, but I think he will finish the season as a starter. So if it is him, I can't think of a second-round draft choice that's been asked to start a team. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I guess
usually
the
it's
only
a
one I
top
can think
10
of,
pick or.
The only one I can think of, and I don't even know exactly the situation on this because it's just straight off the top of my head, but Davis Mills a couple years ago with the Houston Texans.
Was he the rookie
I think he was a third-round pick, but I can't remember if it was his rookie year, and I can't remember if it was like Deshaun Watson got hurt before all this stuff came out about him. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's even a one-to-one comparison.
It's going to be tough. I mean, because they don't have, I think, a team around them that's built to carry them. So,
right.
The challenge, and you got a new head coach, a new system, and there's so much, so many moving parts for them to have to navigate, much less they're trying to make it in the league, both these guys. I just think, patience, and there's going to be growing pains. I don't care who wins the job.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough for a while, I think.
Yeah, because for me, I mean, I still think the defense is a concern, and I think that's why the quarterbacks might struggle, because I think they're going to have to probably put up more points than you would want a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback to have to put up. So if the defense plays well, then you might not have to put up as many points.
I think the whole key is going to be, can they run the ball with that offensive line, and take the pressure off of them? I mean, I think that's got to be the game plan, right? I mean, he can't expect either one of these guys to carry them passing the ball. So I think that's what Kellen Moore's going to want to do. But it's hard to even evaluate any of that right now because there's no contact in the offseason. So I think these first few weeks and these preseason games are going to be critical for this staff to understand what they've got to build this offense around, because, I mean, they're kind of behind the 8 ball in a lot of ways. And that's why I think Shuck is probably going to find himself behind, because, these CBA rules that have been slowly enforced over time, they've cut back on the offseason, really do no favors to young quarterbacks like Shuck coming in, because they don't get the reps. So they're really having. That's why I think you see him trying to make it up in other ways to try and catch up because he's going to be behind. I think no matter what, starting this camp.
So our realistic expectations for the quarterbacks, I think we can expect it to be an up and down season regardless of who wins quarterback play. I think we're going to see some flashes, but I think seeing like consistent, solid, like average starter play is probably asking too much. I think you're probably looking at like ideal scenario, like the 20th best quarterback situation in football. I think that would be a win for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, look at Caleb Williams last year.
Right.
You know, I mean, he was the number one pick in the draft, and look how many ups and downs he had.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So look, I think there's a chance that either Rattler or Shuck, whoever wins, and I truly think it is a really tight battle for those guys. I think whoever wins, like, there's a chance that they look pretty good in this offense. I do think that there are some good pieces, like just infrastructure wise on this offense. People they're going to be throwing the ball to. I think the line's going to be improved. I think the play calling is going to be pretty good because Kellen Moore's got a really solid, strong history as an offensive play caller. I think there's a chance that it's not a disaster, right? That it looks good, and that they have somebody who they feel they can build around. But like, I just don't think that can be your expectation going into this year. That it is going to be like somewhere close to the middle of the league. I think it's going to be probably more like the 22nd, 23rd best quarterback situation in football.
Yeah, because I mean, if you talk to people with the Saints, one of the reasons they liked Tyler Shuck was that he was older and had been through a lot, so they know like there's going to be bumps in the road, and they want somebody that can handle it mentally and come out the other side. So they are anticipating the growing pains they're inevitable. They're going to happen. I mean, look at Bryce Young, for goodness sake. I mean, he was also number one pick, and looked like for a while where he might not even make it, and he's weathered the storm. It looks like now. So I just think those are better examples of Caleb Williams and Bryce Young than say Jaden Daniels, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the guys the quarterbacks are going to be working with, guys who are going to try to make their lives easier on the quarterbacks. Let's go to the running backs. Look, I think we've all kind of established how we feel about Alvin Kamara. I think he's still a really, really good player. I think Jeff is probably a little bit more down on him than I am, and Rod, you're probably closer to what I am on Alvin. He's coming off a season where he had about 1,500 yards from scrimmage, and looked really good in that wide zone scheme that Clint Kubiak was running. He played 13 or 14 games, which is kind of about what you're going to expect from Alvin on a given year. He usually misses 2 to 3 games in a season. Beyond him, I think big question marks kind of all around. I think you can kind of talk yourself into potential for guys who are backing him up. But like nobody's really shown it to this point, either because they haven't had a chance. And Devin Neal, or there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's kind of cast off by the Chiefs. There was Cam Akers, who's been bouncing around for a while. There's obviously Kendre Miller, Velus Jones, who's a former third-round draft pick who hasn't panned out. There's a lot of guys in the mix that nobody really knows much about how they're going to look in this particular scheme. So what's your kind of realistic expectations, your benchmarks for this running back room? And this time we're going to start with you, Jeff. What do you think?
Well, look, I think this is make or break for Kendre Miller. He's got a new staff, another fresh start, and I think he's probably the most talented guy they have behind Alvin. He was drafted probably to be the eventual replacement for Alvin Kamara.
I think there's no question about
the
that.
The successor, right? And I mean, if he doesn't get it done this year, his career could be in jeopardy. He may have to find a path elsewhere because this organization, I think, will probably move on. I think it was interesting they signed Cam Akers, and the fact that they even brought him in, kind of was interesting to me. That indicates they felt like they needed more help there. More veteran help.
And they were also kicking the tires on Nick Chubb, too, before he signed with the Texans.
Yeah, so there's something to that, right? They're telling us something. And it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being the backup, in supplants Kendre Miller. If you talk to people in the building, they liked the way he looked at the end of last season. They said he was a much different back at the end of last season than he was at the beginning. But there's always a little bit of a red flag when guys had that much injury history and has bounced around at this stage of his career. So I think it's wide, like you said, Luke. I think it's completely wide open. I mean, I don't know who the backup is going to be. I think we're going to find out. And look, it wouldn't surprise me if Alvin Kamara didn't play in any preseason games, right? I mean, we know what he is, but they've got to find somebody that can take some of the load off him because his numbers were impressive last year, but they also used him a lot. And at this stage of his career, I think less of him is more.
Yeah, for me, I think just going into this season, I think as far as who they have, who their options are, I mean, we don't know if Kendra is going to hold up, but I think they have some pretty good options behind Kamara. Like, this is probably like the best depth-wise. I think this is like the best collection of backs they've had as a possible backup. So I'm glad you said Cam Akers first, because if I said it, y'all was like, oh, Rob's being a homer. So I'm glad you went to Jeff first.
Mississippi guy.
I do think Cam Akers has I think has a good shot to be really good. I haven't quite given up on Kendra yet, but I mean, I do get why people don't believe in him. But this is his chance, like Jeff said. I mean, if he doesn't do it this year, he's pretty much done. So I think the backs have a chance to be really good. And I think, I look at how much Kellen Moore used Saquon last year. I think he had probably over 300 some carries. But I think this year, obviously Alvin, you're not going to run Alvin that much. But I think, so they're going to depend on whoever gets that second spot. I mean, he's going to have to carry a lot of this load, I feel like. And I think they can do it. And I think they're going to need to do it. And that's going to help the quarterbacks out, whoever their quarterback is. So,
Couple thoughts on my end. I think there's just as likely a chance that Kendra Miller rushes for 800 yards this year as there is he doesn't make the team out of training camp.
Yep, I agree.
Like it is boom or bust for him. Like he's got to show that the light bulb's clicking for him this year, because it hasn't the first 2 years. I mean, there's been injury stuff for sure, but it's been more than that. So he's definitely got ability. There's no question about that. He's a super explosive player, but there's more to the game than that. So if he doesn't prove that he's figured it out, like I don't think there's anything preventing this team from cutting bait with him on August 29th or whenever they do roster cuts. And then the second thing I want to bring up is, for all Kellen Moore's like reputation as this like passing guru, I think he's had like 4 top 10 rushing offenses. Obviously Saquon last year, yeah. And the year before in LA, they had a terrible rushing attack, but they were consistently good in Dallas at running the football. And it wasn't just like feeding Zeke 25 times a game. I think Kellen Moore's last year in Dallas, Tony Pollard and Zeke had pretty even total in carries and rushing yards. So this is a team that I think is going to want to run the football, like you said, because of the quarterback situation, but also because this is kind of part of Kellen Moore's DNA as an offensive play caller. And I think they've got the offensive line to do it, especially if Trevor Penning clicks at left guard, because I think his best skill is as a run blocker. So this to me has potential to look really, really good this year. I also think there's potential that when we saw this offense performing at a high level last year, they were running the ball really well, and that zone scheme really fit the players that they have. And it's not going to, like, they are still going to do some zone concepts this year, but it's going to be kind of more of a mishmash between that and like gap scheme stuff. So it might, like, there might be some growing pains with that, where the running scheme doesn't exactly fit what they want to do personnel wise. So I'm curious. I think there's chance for it to be really good, and there's also chance for it to just be okay. Well, especially if nobody's really able to take up the mantle as AK's number 2.
And we've seen this team, like when it's at its best offensively, they have more than one back. I mean, the Ingram Kamara combo. I mean, go back in the day when they had Reggie Bush and Pierre Thomas and Chris Ivory and Darren Sproles. I mean, you have to have in this day and age.
Well, there's a couple of years where Latavius Murray was a huge part of that too. Yeah. And you're also talking about removing Taysom Hill from the equation, which that's been a huge part of the run game as well.
Yeah, because I would think at this point, and we'll talk about him in a second, but he's not going to start the season probably on the active roster, right? So, yeah, that's a big element out of the game. And look, I think that's their path to success. What you talk about, if they can thread the needle with this team, it has to start with the offensive line and the running game. I don't think this team can succeed offensively without that.
Agreed.
Right.
So let's talk about the pass catchers.
All right.
Okay, look, I don't think there's any doubt in our mind that the top two guys they have in that room are really, really talented. When they're healthy, they're probably one of the most dynamic 1-2 duos in the NFL. I don't think they're topping what they have in Philadelphia or Cincinnati, but they're good. They're really, really good together. Problem is, last year especially, health was a huge issue. I think they combined to play 14 games last year between two of them. And look, Chris Olave played 15, 16 games, each of the first 2 years of his career. I think Shaheed played 33 out of the first 35 games of his career before last year's knee injury. So, they've done it before. They've stayed on the field before. But last year look, they're slight guys. Injury is always going to be a concern with them. And last year was the thing that's sticking most in our minds. So when you're looking at this receiver core headlined by Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, you add Brandon Cooks to the mix. You got a bunch of guys after that. Some people like maybe Bub Means can take a step forward. Maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones can rediscover his form. Maybe Cedric Wilson is a closer version of the guy that he was with Kellen Moore in Dallas and he was last year with Clint Kubiak. But a lot of guys who have a lot of question marks around them. When you're looking at this receiver core, let's assume they're going to be healthy generally. What's the expectation for this group?
If healthy, they're fine, but that's a really big assumption I think we're making.
Yeah.
But if they're healthy, I think you're good at that spot. I'm okay with. I mean, you still want to know who that third receiver is going to be, and I kind of lean towards Bud Means. But yeah, to me, it's just a matter of them being healthy. If they're healthy, they're going to be really good at receiver, I feel like.
What about Brandon Cooks? What are you thinking about Brandon Cooks in this offense? To me, that was he's been a really good player for a really long time. The last couple of years have not been that. He's dealing with his own injury stuff from last year, and he's also just like an older version of what they already have in Olave and Shaheed.
Exactly what I was gonna say.
So that to me, I was a little kind of perplexed when they made that signing. It wasn't the receiver type I thought they were going to be going for. So what do you think his role could be in this?
Yeah,
offense?
I mean, for me, that's almost like a sign that you get because of those other two guys haven't been healthy. I mean, so you say, okay, we'll bring another guy in who can kind of do what they do if they go down, I guess. I don't know, but I think he can, he has that veteran presence, and maybe that helps that locker room out some. I don't know, but I agree with you that he kind of brings what they already had.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they add somebody in camp or as we get close to the season, maybe one of these veteran guys that's been kind of stiff-arming them a little bit. I mean, let's face it, the Saints are not the most attractive situation for
a veteran
receiver.
especially.
Yeah, I mean, you got uncertain quarterback situation. The team's prospects are low. If you're Keenan Allen at this stage of his career, where he's going to want to try and find a spot with chase a ring. That's what guys want to do late in their career. So, but maybe they get desperate toward the end of camp or something. They bring somebody in. I think they're still looking for somebody to help, a bigger body we've talked about, to supplement them. That's going to give them something they don't already have. But if they don't, I mean, it's wide open behind those top two. And I don't know if there's a candidate you could say for sure is going to be the number 3 guy. And they're going to play, I think, probably a lot of 3 receiver combinations like most teams. And, I haven't seen anybody yet. I wasn't there as much this offseason, but I'm not sure what you could say anyway from what you were watching now. I think these first couple of weeks are going to be big for someone like Bub Means to show something. But I would caution, too, also. I keep pulling these old references out, but, Marcus Colston, his rookie year was nothing in OTAs and was nothing in minicamp and was like nothing the first week and a half of training camp. And then the light bulb came on.
Yep.
And they ended up seeing so much of him, they traded Dante Stallworth, who was a first-round draft pick. So it can happen. It doesn't have to have already happened. We're still early in the process.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's absolutely a chance that Bub Means shows something in training camp. You're like, oh, okay, they've got something there.
Right.
He was with the team all of last year. I think what was he, a 6th-round pick last year, 5th-round pick? Obviously he dealt with the injury. It kind of knocked him out the last 7 or 8 weeks of the year. But he showed some signs last year that you're like, okay, he's got something. They kept him around the entire year. I think there's absolutely a chance that something clicks for him, and maybe Brandon Cooks can rediscover something of what he was 3 years ago before the kind of injuries. But I think that's probably a riskier gamble on that part. So I don't know. I still think that going into the season, it still looks like it's Shaheed, Olave, and a lot of shrug, but there definitely is, like, you got to leave the possibility open for one of these guys to step up.
And I don't know, like, who's the guy, gets that tough catch over the middle like Mike Thomas did all those years, and they just don't. It might have to be one of the tight ends, I guess.
Let's roll into that, because that was going to be my point.
Right. I don't think they have that guy right now.
I think when you're looking at this team, they don't have that guy, and they haven't had that guy really since Mike Thomas injured his ankle in week 1 of the 2021 season, I think. They've been searching for that. And I think some of the time that we've been thinking about this and how are they going to find that in this offense, we've been thinking maybe it's Juwan Johnson, right? Hasn't played out that way. But I think I am really interested to see how this plays out this year. There's a reason they signed him to a 3-year, $31 million deal. I think Kellen Moore sees something that he really likes in him. Can he be the one to unlock him? Like, who knows? But we've all seen the potential in Juwan. We've all taken our turn saying he's ready for a breakout year, and it hasn't happened. Could it happen this year? What are your realistic expectations for that? He set career highs in receptions, receiving yards last year, but it was still, I think, by many considered a kind of a disappointing season, especially considering the injuries they had. So what are you guys thinking on tight ends?
Well, I mean, look,
can he be the guy that plays that Michael Thomas?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to be. I don't think there's anybody else on the roster that is that guy. And, I mean, we've sat in the press box many weeks and said, is this going to be the game that they finally start going to him? And I don't know why it never developed, but it never really developed the way we all saw. I mean, he was all airline drive a couple of training camps ago, and we all thought, and I remember Bobby Hebert predicting it, and we weren't alone. Like, a lot of people thought he would break out. And
watching these training camps, I was like, he might be a 1,000-yard receiving tight end.
Right. And look, obviously Sean Payton liked him because he came after him this offseason. I think that's one of the reasons he got the deal. They didn't want to lose another guy to him. When he has a good vision for a player, that says something to me too. And they warded it off and kept him. So let's see if they use him now. And I think it's good that they got a new quarterback and a new offensive play caller in there too. Maybe that'll unlock him a little more. And a young quarterback's best friend often is a tight end. So it could be. I think it's going to have to be one of those tight ends because I don't see a receiver that's going to get those over-the-middle catches. And with the injury concerns for these two slight receivers, I think you got to find somebody to go over the middle. Defenses aren't dumb. They're going to see the Saints aren't going over the middles, so you've got to test people over the middle.
Yeah, and I think you talk about going over the middle and going back to Olave, like, I think you'll see him doing less of that now. I mean, you just have to. I mean, with the injury concerns. So, I mean, I'm thinking Juwan is going to finally have that year. I mean, he's gotten paid now, and I mean, I think he wants to like prove that he's worth that. I mean, he knows some people are like questioning that deal. So
yeah, I was.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is kind of a prove it year for him too. Like, he needs to go out and earn that money, and we know the potential's there. So I just think he has to do it this year. I feel like.
I think he has to too. Like, he's going to turn 29 in September. Look, he's going to be in the first year of a 3-year deal, but like, if it doesn't happen this year, I'm not I'm not ever going to predict the Juwan Johnson breakout again. Like, it's just, if it's not going to happen this year, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And there's just a chance that he just is who he is,
Right.
But I do think that there's some interesting stuff in like the data for how they've used Juwan in the past under Pete Carmichael, less so Sean Payton because he wasn't really the primary tight end, but like Pete Carmichael and Clint Kubiak. He's been like a vertical stretch the field tight end, which makes sense. He's a college receiver. He's big. He's fast. That makes sense. But when you look at how like Kellen Moore has used his tight ends, like the average depth of target, Juwan was like up there with like Jamar Chase for average depth of target last year. Dallas Goedert was like 2 yards less than that, and he caught like 80% of his passes. And that's like over the years, it's like Dallas Goedert and Calcaterra, the other tight end in Philadelphia last year, and Dalton Schultz in Dallas. Like, all these guys had they were kind of short targets and getting room to run after the catch. All these guys had like 50% of their yards, their receiving yards after the catch. I think there's a chance for Juwan Johnson to be really good in that kind of role. Because when he gets a full head of steam, when he gets moving, like he's a really athletic mover with the football. And I think there's a window there for him to increase his production just by having some easier opportunities to make a catch and move with the ball in his hands.
And it seems like he was the kind of designated, that seam, that hallway, as they say, down the middle of the Tampa 2, the cover 2. He was the guy running that route a lot. And we've seen the Saints over the years run that through the tight end because you're not going to run probably Olave on many of those and see him get lit up. So it's going to have to be part of the offense. Somebody's got to threaten the middle corridor deep. And he's probably the guy. But I agree with you, Luke. Like, I'd like to see him just involved more in different routes, concepts, and utilize more because I think he's got ability, especially, run after catch. We've seen him flash it, but I think there's more there.
I agree.
I think there's more there because he was a former receiver, and there's not a lot of other options, frankly, at tight end for that role.
Yeah, so let's talk about the rest of the tight ends. So Foster Moreau dealing with an injury, missed all of the summer offseason program. Taysom Hill, we're obviously not expecting to even be there for the start of the regular season, probably start the year on the PUP.
Yep.
So then we're looking at Jack Stoll, free agent signee, who's with Kellen Moore in Philly for a little bit. Maliki Matavao, the seventh round draft pick this year. You're also looking at Dallin Holker, who I think I don't know how I feel about that. Like he feels like a practice squad guy to me, just because he would be the Juwan Johnson move tight end kind of role on the team, kind of redundant on a 53. Michael Jacobson, kind of same sort of deal. He's more the pass catching tight end. Trayton Welch, we're kind of getting into the dregs of the roster here. But they're probably going to have to carry 3 tight ends on the 53. 2 of them probably aren't going to be Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill. I think Foster Moreau has a much better chance of being ready. But they're going to need to have some guys who are they're like blocking tight ends. I don't know if those guys are going to be like exactly what you want early on in the season. I don't know what you guys think about that.
No, I agree with you. I mean, we just haven't seen it, so
yeah,
that's the thing. But they do need those kind of guys on the roster, and they don't really have it right now.
Especially if they're going to be running the football.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, is there anybody even out there at this point? I imagine they've uncovered every stone.
Yeah,
to see
that would be a weird addition to me, just because you know you're going to get Taysom and Foster back at some point this year.
Right.
So.
And if you're a veteran tight end, why would you go?
Why would you?
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. So it's probably what you see is what you get right now, tight end.
Yeah, at least Matavao is a big dude, and he's like 6'7", 260, something like that. So maybe he could just give you some beef in the run game. All right, offensive tackles. Obviously, the Saints used a number 9 overall pick on Kelvin Banks Jr. Everything we've seen so far is Kelvin Banks Jr. on the left side, Taliesin Fuanga on the right side. What do you guys think of that? I think this has potential to be pretty good this year, but again, we have just really no idea because it's impossible to get a sense of line play during minicamp and OTA. So we'll start with Rod on this one.
Yeah, for me, and just taking the line as a whole, I go back to last year. I know I wouldn't have said this last year, but I think that the line might be the best position on this team this year, which is crazy when you think about the stuff we were saying this time a year ago. And we know how good Eric McCoy is, but I think those tackles have a chance to be really, really good. I think this could be the strength of this team, which we haven't said since Teron and Ramczyk probably. So I think they can be really good. I mean, we don't know how good Kevin Banks will be, but I do think the fact that they're starting him off on the left side tells you how much they believe in him. I mean, you look at where they drafted him at. I think that says a lot about what they think about him.
Yeah.
And obviously for Fuanga, I mean, he played well last year. Now he's going back to the position that he played in college. So you think that would be a good fit for him as well.
Yeah, and look, there'll probably be growing pains for Banks too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, left tackle, we've seen some guys struggle around the league, but I think one of the more underrated aspects of the team that people aren't talking about, and I think it'll be a big thing to talk about during camp, is Brendan Nugent, the offensive line coach. He's well respected around the league. He's been with the Saints before. He was highly sought after this year as a kind of a free agent coach. And I think they've underperformed considering the talent level they had up front. And I think he can unlock some of these guys. Like Rod said, I think this could be the strength of the offense because of the talent, because of the investment, and maybe just because of past iterations under the Dennis Allen era. They just haven't performed up to their expectations, and maybe he gets more out of it. I think they've got to, to succeed, like we said earlier. So, but Banks, I'm interested to see once they start putting the pads on and guys start rushing the passer and all that, because, there's just no way to evaluate anything so far with him, But people are very high on him around the league. He's one of those guys that I think a lot of people was a consensus was going to be a good player in the league. His floor was pretty high. I remember talking to Arch Manning down at the passing academy. He said the one guy at Texas that consistently beat him into the building every day was Banks. He was the one guy that was there every day. He spoke volumes about – spoke very highly of his leadership skills and everything. You can see why they invested in him. Remember we talked back before the draft, they can't miss on this pick no matter what. At number 9, they couldn't miss. I think he's the perfect example of a guy that's probably not going to miss. He's probably safe to say he's going to be, if nothing else, have like a Eric McCoy type career, be a solid starter for a number of years. I think that's the expectation for him.
So I feel really good about this right now, but I think it's also just like you got to pump the brakes on stuff a little bit that just makes sense. Like top 10 tackles are where you look at the last 5 years of All-Pro teams. There's 2 guys make the All-Pro left tackle and right tackle every year, right? First team and second team. The last 5 years, there's only been 2 tackles who've made All-Pro first or second team who weren't top 15 picks. If you look at just the top 8 highest paid tackles in the NFL were all top 20 picks. Like that's where you find your dudes. So there's a reasonable expectation for him to be good. But not every top 10, top 15 tackle is
right.
Pans out.
Look at Evan Neal.
Mekhi Becton's on his 3rd team. Jedrick Wills is semi-retired right now. He was a number 10 overall pick for Cleveland a few years back because he has a knee problem. And he was just okay before that. So I think there's like reasonable expectations for him to be solid, dependable as a rookie, much like there was for Tali Fuaga last year. But like I don't think that you can just like absolutely count on it. And I think the same thing goes for Fuaga moving over to the right side. It makes sense in theory. That's where he played all throughout his career in college. I think that's where everybody kind of penciled him in as the best spot for him when he was coming into the NFL. But like as good as he was last year, they were making a big scheme switch. He's making a big position switch. He might have been one of those guys who's best suited for that zone blocking scheme and is not as good in this new scheme. Switching over to the right side after a year playing the left side might be kind of weird for him at first. I don't think we can just guarantee ourselves that he's going to have this kind of upward trajectory.
I tell you what I think helps them both is the division. There's really there's no Lawrence Taylor in this division. There's no elite dominant edge rusher in the pass game. That's been Atlanta's weakness. It frankly has been kind of Tampa's weakness. They've tried to address it, and the Panthers have kind of gone to a whole bunch of young guys. They don't really, the interior guys in this conference are better than the edge rushers.
Yeah, you think about the best defensive lineman in the NFC South, it's Vita Vea and Derek Brown. And
for sure. So I think that's the one thing that could help a little bit is they're not having to go against just some monster on the outside week in or week out in this division, because everybody else is struggling at edge.
We'll close it off with the interior offensive line, and I think this one really comes down to one player. Really, obviously, like Eric McCoy, I think he's shown that when he's healthy, he's one of the better centers in football. But health has been an issue for him the last couple of years. Cesar Ruiz, fine, right?
Yep,
fine player, not going to get you killed. But like I think at this point, it's probably can't expect him to be like a Pro Bowl level player. The guy who it kind of all hinges around is Trevor Penning. I've gone on the record many times saying I think the move to left guard is going to be really good for him. I think it fits his skill set better. We got a chance to talk to him during the summer, and he is all for it. He actually grew up playing guard. He thinks this is going to fit his skill set as well. So what do you guys think about the interior of the offensive line, the shape of it right now, how they're going to help those young tackles, and what this could mean for this offense?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts because he's got a rookie next to him in Banks. So that's going to be interesting. Teams are going to test those guys for sure. If I'm playing the Saints, that's where I'm going to use all my games and everything on that side and see how it holds up. But I think Nugent's addition is going to be big for Penning. I think he, for whatever reason, lost the confidence of Doug Marrone, and those guys just did not mesh for whatever reason. So maybe a fresh start, a new position. This will be his, third position that he's been playing at. So he's used to moving around, but we know he can run block. He's one of the better run blockers I think they have. It's all about the pass blocking. Will that become an issue at guard? I have no idea. I think we're going to find out a lot during camp. I'm going to be watching those pass rush drills, one-on-ones a lot, see how he handles it, because I think it's going to be critical for him to, like you said, Luke, take a step forward, or else, they didn't pick up his option. That tells you a lot, right? They want to see how he adjusts, or they could be in the market for a guard next year.
Well, and I think another part of that, because one of the things that when they didn't pick up his option, a lot of people were saying online, which we know is not necessarily representative, right? But a lot of people were saying, well, that's it, goodbye. Like, he's not coming back. It's no. His option would have cost him like $14 million, and if they were planning to move him to guard, that would have made him like one of the highest paid guards in football. So it made complete sense for them not to pick up his option, and especially because now they're going to get a chance to see what it looks like before they make a commitment to him.
Yep.
But I definitely think that there's a chance that he plays well there and he gets a second contract from the Saints.
Yeah, I think look at Andres Pete is a good example. He came in as a tackle, was better suited to play guard. Got second contract, and it was never like a dominant player. I know he made a bunch of Pro Bowls, but I think, frankly, he was making on reputation for some reason.
That was the Saints had a very good offensive line, and he was part of that.
Right, but if Trevor Penning is, say, your fourth best offensive lineman, I think that's you're okay if he can get to that point where he's not a liability, because he certainly has been one in the past, especially in pass protection. Now maybe playing guard covers that up, but if you're fourth and fifth lineman or Ruiz and Penning, you're probably better than a lot of teams in the league, because frankly, not everybody's got five really, stout, top-notch offensive linemen. So I think Andres Pete would be a good goal for Andres Pete to have Penning, and for Penning to have that kind of career.
Yeah, I know people don't want to hear that, but I think that's correct.
Kind of what you would want.
Yeah.
Has there ever been an offensive lineman that we've watched in training camp this much for this minute? This is 3 years in a row we're talking. Hey, we're watching Trevor Penning, but I do think the move inside is going to help him. He's not out in space having to use his footwork and all that stuff. He can kind of be more of a power guy, which is what he is. So I think this will help him out, and I think it is obviously it's a prove it year for him too. If he didn't work here, then what are you going to do? Move him to center next year?
Yeah.
You tried everything. Hey, that's
you're
out of options,
right. Dude. This is a different kind of like we were
Fullback.
talking about Juwan Johnson. This is going to be what it is, or you're going to show you're finally it. With Trevor Penning is like, are you going to be on the team next year?
Right.
So,
and he knows that.
He knows. Yeah.
Here's one of the things I want to say about the offensive line in general. All five across, I think they have a chance to be pretty good this year. Not like top 5, top 10 in the NFL, but I think they can be like a middle of the pack offensive line in the NFL. And if that's the case, I think that sets a much higher floor for the offense generally. If your line is run blocking well and doing a decent job protecting the quarterback, it's a good place to be for an offense. And I think because of that reason alone, we'll see what happens with the defense. I'm sure we'll talk about the defense next week. But if the line is able to give them good to really good play on a fairly consistent basis, and if they stay healthy for once, there's a chance this offense is not terrible. It's actually kind of decent. We'll see what the defense does, obviously, but I think that's a high floor setter, and that's why I'm probably a little bit higher on the Saints, a little bit higher on the Saints than some of the people who are they're the worst team in football.
Do you think the line is the best unit on the team, or would you say running backs or healthy receivers?
Well, I mean, there's just so much projection with the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's like-
because we don't know what Penning is, we don't know what Banks is, don't know exactly what Fuaga is going to look like on the right side. But I think the ceiling for the line is the highest on the team, if that makes sense.
No,
I think it's definitely the best unit on the team. I don't think there's any
Even without seeing some of the
I don't
guys.
think anybody's even any other positions close.
I don't really think so either. Maybe.
I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are way higher in the running back room than I am. I mean, I think that could be a bad group.
It could be.
Yeah, like.
But like we're also
I don't
talking
think
about a
the-
team that could be bad. So like, hey, you're
No, I know.
not
I'm
talking
just
about like
saying,
a lot of great
you
position
got
groups to pick from.
4 first-round draft picks and a high second-round draft pick in the offensive line. I mean, they should be middle of the pack. I mean, that's if they're not, I think they're in trouble.
yeah.
Yeah.
Real trouble. And I think they will be. I'm with you.
I think they'll be good.
I mean, you got to stay healthy. We can say that about every position. But,
yeah.
And they got better depth there. I think they realized they have to improve the depth there, and I think they did in the offseason.
It's funny. This is like the only one we didn't talk about the depth, but tackle, you got Landon Young who's a swing tackle, which fine.
Yeah.
Not going to kill you. And then on the inside, you've got Dylan Radens, Will Clapp, Nick Saldivari is like your third option on the inside, your third reserve option. I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree. It's better than it was last year.
Yeah.
Remember, I mean, last year it was like, man, if somebody gets hurt,
Yeah.
it's really dropping off, and it happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
a lot of guys got hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to do it for our show today, guys. We always appreciate you listening. If you are listening, like, subscribe, tell your friends, say nice things in the comments. Nice things, please. And
let me just back up real quick. The story I told about Sicily.
yeah.
The kicker, if you're still around from when you listened earlier, the kicker was it wasn't even alcohol in the bottle; it was olive oil. So
Of course.
I was getting ready to take
Sicily.
a bottle of olive
Just
oil
take
down.
a swig of the olive oil.
Yeah, I
and
thought
it
it
would
was
have gone
some
down nice.
craft local beer from Sicily.
Your red
It was a
wine.
bottle of olive oil. So anyway,
We always appreciate you guys listening, and we are going to have stuff rolling out over at NOLA.com, so please check that out as well. We'll be back next week. We'll do the same exercise on the defensive side of the ball, and then it's going to pretty much be training camp time. So we're looking forward to getting started. A couple of us are still getting back from vacations. They'll be back next week, and we'll just dive into it. Looking forward to it. So again, I'm Luke Johnson. I've been joined by Rod Walker, Jeff Duncan. Norman Bell has been our producer. We are the Saints Insider, and we will catch you all later.